This is the big headline this hour, is that the Egyptian president has announced, or will announce today, according to reports, that he will not run amid all these protests when re-election takes place, when the election takes place in September. John Bolton is the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. Ambassador Bolton, so what is it? How significant is it that Mubarak's going to come out today, reportedly, and say, "I'm not going to run"?
Well, this eliminates whatever uncertainty remained about his personal political future. It had been speculated in Egypt for quite some time that given his age and health, Mubarak wasn't going to run this September anyway. But what they feared, and I think what many of the demonstrators strongly opposed, was the speculation that Mubarak would find a way for his son to run and win essentially uncontested and thus perpetuate the dynasty.
And when in Egypt, when you find a way for your son to run and you're Mubarak, your son's going to win.
He will win, absolutely. So if there's anything clear coming out of this week of demonstrations, it's that Gamal Mubarak is never going to be president of Egypt. And Hosni Mubarak's announcement today will confirm that. So this is a major step forward. It indicates there will be a new president after the September elections. And I think Mubarak is signaling he wants to stay to the end of the term. He's recognized he's come to the end of the line. And now this poses a very interesting question for the White House and for the demonstrators and for Americans considering what to do. Given that Mubarak has announced he's going to step down at the end of his term, his son won't run, do you now insist that he step down immediately and risk instability in a major American ally, or do we basically say, okay, we've achieved what we wanted, the Mubaraks are going to be out of power inevitably, now let's concentrate on developing political institutions and parties that can give us a truly free and fair election.
What do you think the protesters are likely to do?
My suspicion is the first reaction of many of them will be to reject this and say it's not enough. I can't speak for the Egyptians. I think a lot of middle-class Egyptians will say, fine, what we mostly did not want is Gamal Mubarak succeeding as pharaoh. The real question now is for American policymakers and the White House and Americans in Congress. I think this is the right decision by Mubarak. I think it will lead to the right result. And I think given the risks of stability to the Egyptian-Israeli peace agreement and strategic stability in the region, we should accept this. We should accept Mubarak staying for the rest of his term, work with the military and other institutions to have really open elections for real political parties, no terrorists, no...
How are we to influence that?
Well, I think the strongest leverage the United States has is the military and economic aid that we give Egypt. And I honestly believe one of the reasons the Egyptian military has been restrained this past week in comparison to the police is that we've been telling them behind the scenes, telling the Egyptian military, if you don't behave, we're going to cut off your assistance.
So, but how? So we basically control the military with aid and say, keep it peaceful, keep the protesters peaceful, make sure that no nefarious political parties get on the ballot? I mean, I understand points 1 and 2, but how do we take it to point 3 where we don't get a candidate backed by the Muslim Brotherhood winning the presidency in Egypt?
Well, this is the hardest point of all. You're exactly right. I think we've got to understand that democracy is not just having an election and counting votes. Democracy is a way of life. Democracy is a culture. You can be a legitimate political party and contest the elections, but you cannot be like Hamas in the Gaza Strip or Hezbollah in Lebanon or the Muslim Brotherhood, a terrorist organization whose members are armed, who'll say, well, we'll contest the election, and if we don't like the result, we're going to use armed force. I think the Muslim Brotherhood's got to be given a very hard choice. You act like a real political party, you can get the benefits of being a real political party. If you're not prepared to do that...
But what if they do that? Isn't that our worst nightmare, if they act like a real political party and then they actually get elected?
That's the position we've taken in other countries, like in Lebanon. And if they do perform that way, then they should be permitted to contest the election. I don't think they'll agree to that because I think that gives up the essence of what they are.
Is there any way we, the United States, can come out of this in September, October, in as good as or even better a position than we're in right now?
Well, I think the position we're in right now is given hundreds of thousands of demonstrators in the street is the economy paralyzed in Egypt and no way out of the conundrum that we're in. I think Mubarak has given us a way out if we'll take it, and I think that's the route we should follow.
Is it realistic to expect a successor who will be friendly toward the United States and pro-democratic?
Well, I think the military is going to have a strong hand in this, and it's not entirely clear that they'll create free and fair elections like we might have in this country. I think the military is going to remain the major force in the Egyptian government for a long way. I don't know exactly what the shape of the elections will be in September, but I think the test is whether the demonstrators and the Obama administration accept that Mubarak is going to stay on through the end of the year. If they don't accept that, we're going to be right back in crisis.
I got to go, but he claims he's going to stay on to meet the demands of the protesters. I don't know what that means. Do you?
I don't either. I think what it means is to the end of his term.
Which is not really consistent with their demands, but we'll see whether it appeases the folks.
It's not that far away.
As you say, he's yanking Jr. from the race, so
exactly.
We'll see how far that goes. Ambassador Bolton, such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
All the best.